a small business I had been dreaming about. When I learned about the inheritance, I was both surprised and grateful. It felt like a validation of my efforts, especially since my grandparents had always treated me with more fairness than my parents ever had. However, my parents quickly made it clear that they had other plans for my share. During a family dinner shortly after the will was read, my dad casually suggested that I hand over a significant portion of my inheritance to Amy. His reasoning? She's younger and still finding her footing in life, he said. My mom chimed in, emphasizing how Amy needed the money more than I did since I already had a good job and owned a house. They acted as though it was an obvious decision, not even asking for my opinion but expecting me to comply. I was stunned. I had worked tirelessly for years to achieve everything I had, and now they wanted to take away the one thing that could give me some financial security and freedom? I calmly told them that I wasn't willing to give away my inheritance. My dad scoffed, accusing me of being selfish, and my mom looked at me like I had just committed some terrible crime. Amy, sitting silently through most of the discussion, suddenly chimed in, saying, "It's not like you need it, you're doing fine." Her words stung. I couldn't believe she thought it was okay to ask for something I had been given to help me build my future. I reiterated that the money was mine and I intended to use it to pay off my student loans and work toward my goals. The room grew tense and my parents exchanged frustrated glances, clearly displeased with my decision. They tried to guilt-trip me, saying things like, "Family helps family," and "You've always had an easier time than Amy." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of their claims, but instead, I firmly told them that my answer was final. Over the next few weeks, the tension only grew. My parents began calling and texting me constantly, pressuring me to reconsider. At one point, my dad even suggested that I should give Amy the entire amount, claiming it would be the right thing to do as her older brother. Amy, meanwhile, avoided bringing it up directly but would drop passive-aggressive comments like, "It must be nice to have so much money to spend," or "Not everyone has the same opportunities as you." It was exhausting. Feeling overwhelmed, I reached out to my uncle, my dad's brother, who had also received a share of the inheritance. He was always fair and level-headed, and I hoped he could offer some advice. After I explained the situation, he was appalled. "That money is yours," he said firmly. "Your grandparents made those decisions for a reason. Don't let anyone guilt you into giving it away." His words gave me the confidence to stand my ground. Things escalated further when my parents decided to confront me in person. They showed up at my house unannounced one evening, demanding that I do the right thing and give Amy what she deserved. My dad went on a tirade about how he had always supported me and that it was my turn to support my sister. I had heard enough. I calmly told them that their favoritism had hurt me deeply for years, and now they were asking me to sacrifice something important for the sake of maintaining that dynamic. "You might think I've had it easier," I said, "but that's only because I've worked hard to overcome everything you refuse to acknowledge." My parents were speechless for a moment, but then my dad exploded, accusing me of being ungrateful and selfish. My mom looked on, her expression a mix of guilt and anger. I told them that if they couldn't respect my decision, we had nothing left to discuss, and I asked them to leave. After they left, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. It hurt to stand up to my parents, but I knew I had made the right choice. What I didn't realize was that my grandparents had anticipated this exact scenario. A few days later, I received a call from the lawyer handling my grandfather's estate. He explained that there was a clause in the will. If any family member tried to coerce or pressure one of the heirs into giving up their share, their portion of the inheritance would be forfeited and redistributed among the other beneficiaries. I couldn't believe it. My grandparents had seen through my parents' behavior and had taken steps to protect me and the other heirs. Knowing this gave me a sense of justice and validation that I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just about the money, it was about finally being seen and treated fairly. For the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. The unexpected inheritance gave me hope for the future, opening doors I never imagined possible. Yet the joy I felt was short-lived. After the will was read, my parents became visibly upset. Later, they pulled me aside, expressing their belief that it was unfair for me to receive an equal share of the inheritance. They argued that Amy, who still lived in their basement and worked part-time at a coffee shop, needed the money more since she was struggling. Stunned but trying to stay calm, I explained that Grandpa had made this decision himself, and that it wasn't for them to question. My reasoning did little to appease them. They insisted that I should do the right thing and give my share to Amy, claiming it was the moral choice. When I refused, their disappointment quickly turned into anger. They accused me of being selfish and ungrateful, dredging up every instance in which they had helped me over the years. My dad rattled off examples like paying for my braces, providing school supplies, and allowing me to live at home during college, things I had partially financed myself through part-time work. He conveniently ignored the fact that they had bought Amy a car, funded her frequent shopping sprees, and continued to support her well into her mid-20s. The hypocrisy was glaring, but they were blind to it. The situation escalated rapidly. As the executor of the will, my dad announced that he would personally interpret Grandpa's wishes. His plan? To hand over my entire share to Amy, claiming that this was what Grandpa would have wanted if he had truly understood our family's situation. I was devastated. Not only was this blatantly illegal, but it was also a painful reminder of how little my parents valued me. I tried reasoning with them, pointing out that Grandpa had always treated all his grandchildren equally and was fully aware of our circumstances. They dismissed my arguments, accusing me of disrespecting Grandpa's memory by suggesting he would have chosen fairness over favoritism. When I brought up specific moments where Grandpa had encouraged me to pursue my academic and career goals, they waved it off as a misunderstanding, insisting that he had privately worried more about Amy's future. When I asked why he hadn't simply written the will that way if that were true, they had no answer. Amy, meanwhile, remained awkwardly quiet. She neither supported nor criticized our parents' actions, simply shrugging and saying, "Mom and Dad know best," when I tried to talk to her alone. It was clear she wasn't going to take my side. Feeling betrayed and desperate, I turned to Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandmother, for help. When I told her what was happening, she was livid. She revealed that this wasn't the first time my parents had tried to manipulate Grandpa's will. Years ago, they had asked him to leave everything to Amy. Grandpa had firmly refused, believing all his grandchildren should be treated equally. To safeguard this principle, he had included a clause in his will stating that anyone who challenged the equitable distribution would forfeit their share entirely. Armed with this information, I confronted my parents again. When I mentioned Grandma's disclosure about their prior attempt to influence Grandpa, their reactions were a mix of shock and guilt. My dad tried to justify their actions, claiming they were only trying to secure Amy's future, but it was clear their scheme was unraveling. Grandma didn't waste time. She contacted the will's co-executor and the family attorney, as well as my dad's siblings, who were equally outraged by his actions. Together, they ensured that the will would be enforced as written. My parents had no choice but to back down, though they made no effort to hide their resentment. They accused me of betraying the family by involving others, insisting that I should have kept the matter in-house. My mom cried, claiming I had divided the family and betrayed them. When my dad threatened to cut me out of their own will entirely, I replied that I had never expected anything from them anyway. His threats didn't stop there. He went so far as to suggest that I would no longer be welcome in their home if I accepted the inheritance." End quote. In a particularly cruel jab, my mom said that by taking the money, I was proving I never truly loved them and only cared about profiting from their eventual passing. Her words stung, but I reminded myself that this wasn't about greed. It was about fairness and standing up for myself after years of being overlooked and undervalued. Despite their threats and accusations, I knew I couldn't give in. Accepting the inheritance was not just about the money. It was about reclaiming my self-worth and refusing to let their favoritism continue to dictate my life. The situation has caused a rift in my extended family. Some of my cousins are supportive, understanding the long-standing favoritism I endured and admiring my decision to stand up for myself. Others, however, believe I should have given in for the sake of keeping the peace, arguing that family harmony should come before financial concerns. While my dad's siblings have firmly sided with me, the tension has strained their relationship with my parents. Amy has found herself caught in the middle of this mess. In a rare moment of honesty, she privately confided that while she feels bad about the situation and never asked for any of this, she isn't ready to challenge our parents. She admitted that she has been conditioned her entire life to rely on them and seek their approval. Though I can't completely blame her, a part of me wishes she would step up and support me just this once. This ordeal has unearthed a lot of buried pain and bitterness for me. I find myself reliving all the times I was overlooked or dismissed in favor of Amy, the birthdays where my celebration felt like an afterthought, the school events my parents didn't bother to attend, the achievements they never acknowledged. This one incident has become a focal point for all the unfairness I've endured throughout my life. Despite the turmoil, I'm standing firm. I'm determined to take my inheritance as Grandpa intended, no matter how much pushback I get. My parents barely speak to me now, and family gatherings have become uncomfortably tense. For the first time in my life, I skipped our monthly family dinner last week because I couldn't bear the cold shoulders and accusatory glares. Yet, amidst the chaos, there's a small part of me that feels empowered. For the first time, I'm confronting my parents' favoritism head-on. I'm asserting my worth and refusing to be disregarded. It's both terrifying and liberating. Still, the family drama has taken its toll on me. I've started experiencing anxiety attacks again, something I hadn't dealt with since college. To cope with the stress, I'm considering returning to therapy. I keep wondering, did I do the right thing by standing my ground and accepting my inheritance? Should I have just given the money to Amy to avoid all this conflict? While I'm exhausted from always being the scapegoat, I'm also scared of losing my family completely. Any advice or perspective would be greatly appreciated. 6 months have passed since my initial post, and a lot has changed. First, I want to thank everyone who offered support and guidance. It truly helped me stay strong through these difficult times. On the legal side of things, I took many of your suggestions and consulted my own attorney. He confirmed that I had every right to my inheritance and that my dad's actions were blatantly illegal. He helped me document everything and prepared me to take legal action if necessary. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. With the help of my dad's siblings, my grandmother and her attorney, we resolved the matter without going to court. I received my full inheritance, and the will was executed exactly as Grandpa intended. As a result of his attempted manipulation, my dad was removed as the executor of the will. The process wasn't easy. It involved weeks of tense meetings, angry phone calls, and even threats of litigation from my parents. But in the end, the law was clear and they had no choice but to back down. The fallout within the family, however, has been significant. Initially, my parents doubled down on their stance, accusing me of being greedy and heartless toward Amy. They tried to turn other family members against me, spreading baseless rumors that I had somehow coerced Grandpa into leaving me money. Thankfully, most of the family saw through their lies and didn't take their side. About a month after the will was finalized, there was a particularly unpleasant incident at a family gathering. My aunt was hosting, and my parents showed up uninvited. They caused a scene, shouting that I had stolen from Amy and manipulated Grandma. My dad went on a tirade claiming I had ruined all the wonderful family memories, while my mom threw an old photo album at my feet. It was an incredibly awkward and upsetting moment, and it took several relatives to calm them down and convince them to leave. Through it all, my grandmother has been my strongest ally. She's shared stories about how proud Grandpa always was of my accomplishments. She told me he had kept a scrapbook filled with newspaper clippings about my academic achievements, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even programs from my university performances. Hearing these stories brought me a sense of validation I never received from my parents. While the conflict has left me drained, I'm finally beginning to feel a sense of closure. I've learned the importance of standing up for myself even in the face of opposition. It's been a difficult journey, but I'm grateful for the support I've received along the way. It was bittersweet to realize that it took so long for my parents to gain some perspective, but Grandma's intervention was a turning point. She took it upon herself to set the record straight with the extended family. She organized a gathering that excluded my parents and openly shared the long history of favoritism I had endured, even recounting events I had forgotten or never known about. Hearing someone finally acknowledge the unfairness I faced was deeply validating, though it also reopened old wounds. Amy also found her voice during this ordeal. She came to me privately and offered a heartfelt apology for not supporting me earlier. After doing some soul-searching and having deep conversations with Grandma, she admitted that our parents' favoritism was wrong but confessed she had been too afraid to confront it. We talked for hours about our childhoods, sharing stories and emotions that had been buried for years. Amy revealed that being the favored child wasn't as ideal as it seemed. She had never been given the chance to stand on her own and felt immense pressure to live up to our parents' expectations. She described times when she had wanted to achieve things independently, only for our parents to step in and take over, robbing her of opportunities to grow and learn from her mistakes. This conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. For the first time, we began rebuilding the sibling bond that our parents' favoritism had fractured. We started meeting regularly for coffee, offering each other encouragement as we navigated the family drama. Then came the biggest surprise of all. Amy announced that she would use her inheritance to pay for college. She explained that watching me stand up for myself had inspired her to take control of her own life. Determined to pursue her dreams, she enrolled in a local community college with plans to eventually transfer to a 4-year university. Her decision shocked everyone, especially our parents. I could see the realization dawn on them that their coddling had not done Amy any favors. At first they reacted with anger, accusing me of turning Amy against them and trying to guilt her into quitting college to help the family. When those tactics failed, my mom began to reflect on her actions. After several long talks with Grandma and witnessing Amy's transformation, she began to acknowledge the damage her behavior had caused. She reached out to me with an apology, admitting her mistakes and asking for a chance to make amends. While I am cautiously optimistic, I have also learned to maintain firm boundaries as we move forward. Unfortunately, my dad has been less willing to take accountability. He remains angry and distant, rarely speaking to Amy or me. He has made a few attempts to regain control, threatening to sell our childhood home or cut ties completely unless we come to our senses. Though it's painful to see him alienate both of his children, Amy and I are standing firm. The dynamics within the extended family have shifted as well. I've grown closer to my dad's siblings, who have been incredibly supportive throughout this process. Hearing stories from my aunts and uncles about their own struggles with my dad's difficult behavior has made me feel less isolated. I've also strengthened bonds with the cousins who stood by me, and we've started a monthly cousin dinner to stay connected and free ourselves from the drama of the older generation. On a personal level, I've been making thoughtful use of my inheritance. Paying off my student loans has given me an incredible sense of financial freedom, and with the help of a financial advisor, I've built a diverse investment portfolio. I've also set aside funds to potentially launch my own business in the future. One idea I'm exploring is opening a community center that offers affordable mental health services and financial literacy workshops, resources I wish I'd had growing up. But the most meaningful use of my inheritance has been investing in therapy for myself and supporting Amy in accessing counseling as well. We're both learning to set healthy boundaries with our parents and working to heal from the emotional neglect and favoritism we experienced. It's a long journey, but I already feel like I'm growing stronger and more capable of overcoming the challenges of our upbringing. This process has brought unexpected growth and clarity to my life. I've developed a better understanding of my own worth and learned how to advocate for myself without succumbing to guilt or pressure. Although it hasn't been easy, I feel proud of the progress I've made. One surprising outcome has been a shift in my career aspirations. Dealing with my family's dysfunction and going through therapy has ignited a passion for helping others who face similar struggles. I'm considering going back to school to specialize in working with adult children of emotionally immature parents and becoming a family therapist. In the meantime, I've started volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring kids from challenging family environments. Being able to provide the kind of support I wished I'd had growing up has been deeply fulfilling. I'm even thinking about creating a scholarship fund for kids from similar backgrounds, using a portion of my inheritance. Turning my pain into purpose has been one of the most rewarding outcomes of this journey, and I'm excited to see where it leads me. My connection with Amy has continued to improve steadily. Once a month, we dedicate a siblings' day to doing something fun together, just the two of us. Last month, we went hiking and had a picnic, and it was the most relaxed and genuine bond we've shared since we were kids, free from our parents' influence. Together, we are gently rebuilding our relationship on our own terms. With my parents, the situation remains complex. My mom has been making an effort to repair our relationship. She attends therapy regularly and has started to recognize the harm her favoritism caused. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've shared honest, though sometimes difficult conversations about the past and how we can move forward. While it's far from perfect, there are signs of progress, and I'm cautiously optimistic. Fortunately, my dad refuses to change. He still insists he did nothing wrong and that Amy and I should feel grateful for everything he's done. He refuses to be in the same room as me, which has led to him missing several family gatherings. While it's painful, I'm learning to let go of the need to change his perspective or control his reactions. For both Amy and me, Grandma has become our rock. She continues to share stories about Grandpa's pride in us and how he supported fairness and justice, making her an incredible source of guidance and mediation in family matters. This entire experience has taught me invaluable lessons about the true meaning of family. I've realized that sometimes the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you're born into. I've built a close circle of friends who have been pillars of strength throughout this journey. I've also grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me, and we've formed a stronger bond as a result. We've even started having monthly cousin dinners, creating a space free from the drama of the older generation. Setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care have become essential for me. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel guilty about putting my well-being first. For years, I was so consumed with trying to earn my parents' approval that I neglected to explore my own interests and hobbies. Now I'm finally allowing myself the freedom to discover who I am outside of their shadow. To anyone facing similar circumstances, my advice is this: Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for claiming what is rightfully yours, even if it causes conflict. Standing up for yourself is not only reasonable but necessary. Family dynamics can be messy, but you deserve to be treated fairly. Remember, it's never too late to start building the life you deserve. Seek therapy if you need it, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't hesitate to set boundaries. Your value is defined by who you are as a person, not by how your family treats you. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support and advice. It meant more than I can express during such a challenging time. Although the journey hasn't been easy, I'm optimistic about the future. For the first time in years, I feel a sense of confidence and self-assurance. I'm excited to see where this new chapter in my life takes me, and I'm determined to break the cycle of favoritism and build healthier relationships in my own future family. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.